Assalamu alaikum and good evening to all those who have joined us today on our Zoom platform, or those who are watching us live on our Facebook group or Facebook page. Thank you so much for joining us today, for joining us on today's outreach program. Today's outreach program is a series, non-academic series. Today's session is third of its kind. So we had two sessions in the recent past. In today's session, we are joined by two special guests, Dr. Hanief Shahjee and Wajid Riyaz. Dr. Hanief Shahjee is our speaker, and Wajid will moderate this session for JK Scientists. So Wajid Riyaz is scientist, upstream process development, Thermo Fisher Scientific US, and Dr. Hanief Shahjee is principal scientist, analytical development at Ocugen Biopharmaceuticals USA. So Dr. Hanief Shahjee and Wajid will be with us for around 1.5 hours. They will speak about the transition from academia to industry. And this is a very important session for our masters, PhD, and postdocs who will be joining us and watching us either on our Facebook platform or later on our YouTube channel as well. Wajid, the session is yours. Please introduce Dr. Shahjee first. I will just give you the hosting rights.
Yeah, thank you. Assalamu alaikum and hello to all of you people who have taken the time and effort to attend the seminar today. Thank you for that introduction, Khalid Bhai. Let me share my screen so I can introduce Mr. Shahjee. All right, can you guys see my screen?
Yes, it's there.
All right, so our session today is going to be on transitioning from an academic setup to an industrial setup. And our guest speaker for today is Mr. Hanief Shahjee, who is a principal scientist at Ocugen Biopharmaceuticals. He is working with the analytical team in the Eastern Coast. Ocugen Biopharmaceuticals is a biotherapeutic company which works on gene therapeutics for discovering, developing, and even ends up commercializing various drug targets for blindness. His current responsibilities from the analytical development team is that he develops CIF and SDS methods for protein adeno-associated viruses and characterizations. He also does identification methods on ELISA for SARS-CoV. He implements SOP drafts and test procedures for analytical groups. He reviews analytical data performing externally at different CRO sites. Mr. Hanief Shahjee has filled in previous roles working as a CAR-T scientist. He has also worked as a senior scientist. I think he has briefly worked as a bioassay scientist as well, where he was working with HeLa-RC, 32 cell lines, AAV cell banking for gene therapy programs. He was also responsible for monitoring the PD sample pool for routine testing in the analytical group for vector titer qPCR, capsid ELISA studies. He was also responsible for supporting, testing, and training new hires on ELISA, qPCR, and cell-based assays. If I talk about his education, he has done his undergraduate and postgraduate studies from University of Kashmir, and then he ended up getting his PhD specialization from University of Jamia Millia Islamia from New Delhi, where his work was on role of amino acid osmolytes, on conformational stability and function of proteins. So I'm going to end the slide share. It's not letting me stop. Okay. So did the slide go away?
Yes, please continue, Wajid sir.
All right, thank you. So that's a little bit about Hanief Saab. With all that introduction, please welcome Mr. Hanief. Assalamu alaikum, Hanief Saab.
Walaikum salam, Wajid Saab, and thank you, Wajid Saab and Khalid Saab for a nice introduction. I'll be happy to answer any questions related to transition from academia to industry. So I mean, I can talk about my if there are any questions, I'll be happy to answer the questions, but I can briefly talk about my transition from academia to industry. So it's very challenging. There are a lot of hurdles, when you move from academia and industry. Like after doing my PhD, I wanted to be pursuing my career, outside India, and wanted to do something more related to the academia positions. But as we all know, it's a different world. The industry world is a different than the academia. Although you can say, like, we do same kind of work and same kind of experiments and essays, but working in academia is totally different working in industry. As Mr. Wajid Saab is also aware about, the benefits of working in the industry. But I'll talk about what are the challenges uh, working in the industry and working in the academia. There are disadvantages and there are advantages. I think coming from place like Kashmir to outside like to USA or any other country, or maybe in India, it's really we have to come out of our comfort zone, and we have to start looking and pursue our goals by looking what we are, what our everyone in Kashmir. We're very talented people, and there are so many good skills we have, and how you can give yourself a chance to go out abroad and work pursue your career in different fields. But in terms of talking about the research, uh, coming from Kashmir, I will talk about USA. It's like it's very easy to come to join a position or come for any fellowship in the university level. But coming directly from Kashmir to USA, in industry, it's a little bit difficult. So you have to find a way to get a job in industry, but you have to go through different steps to reach to that level. Uh, if there are any questions, I would be glad to answer. But do you want me to talk about the journey, or I'll wait for the questions?
You can get started with your journey, Hanief Saab, if you like. Please
Yeah.
proceed.
As Wajid have already mentioned about my experience and my education, I completed my PhD from Jamia Millia, and after finishing my PhD, I moved to USA. I started my postdoctoral fellowship at National Institute of Health. And as we know, like, the visa is the main challenge we have always, like coming to US. So we need to find out what is the best way of coming here and staying here. So I came on J1 visa, and I was given a fellowship for 2 years. So it was like just a limited time, so so that I can work here on some projects, and then I have to go back to Kashmir. So when I came to US, I never wanted to go back at the first time. So I just thought, like, I will come and I will stay for a longer time. I didn't want to work only for 2 years and go back. I wanted to work for a longer time and to just enhance my skills and to get better experience working here. So for that, I need to face certain hurdles. So I have to see, like, how can I stay longer than 2 years? So for that, I had to apply for a waiver, as most of us know who are working in US knows about, when you have to transition from J1 to H1. Actually, the J1 is a temporary visa because you cannot extend J1 beyond 5 years. So I initially got it only for 2 years. So if you have to stay longer and to get a green card or be US citizen, you have to change your status. You have to change your visa status. So I was on J1. I had to change my status to H1, which is about 7 years, and sometimes you get extension 1 year, so 8 years maximum. And it gives you enough time to really apply for green card. You can, you have options to change positions, and you have more flexibility in terms of getting jobs. So I'm right now I'm only talking about the academia jobs. So industry jobs is very difficult. If you're on J1, it's very difficult to get job on J1. So talking about my personal experience, I had to get my waiver. So what waiver exactly is like you write a letter to the external affairs in India and human resources and also the passport services to ask them that they have no objection if you continue to stay in US for longer time. So if you extend your time. So actually I applied for waiver, and it's very important that you apply well advanced in time. Like it takes more than 6 months. In some cases, it has taken more than an year or so. So you have to plan well ahead of time, and because you don't want to lose your status. If you're on J1 and then if you have like 1 year left, you should start applying. So in my case, and when I applied for the waiver, it was very interesting that I was only, I think it was 6 months. I don't remember exactly how many, 6 months left for my expiration, J1 expiration. So I applied for the waiver, and if it takes more time for getting your waiver, you cannot extend your J1 status. So I had only few months left, and I was not getting waiver. I was still waiting for my waiver, and it was almost 1 month left for my J1, which could have expired that time. So there was no option now, that I would have to either leave because my waiver was not arriving. I didn't receive the waiver, and either I had to do that or I have to extend J1. So I asked for the extension, which was like, I didn't have much time, so I had to do an application. But for that reason, I cannot extend my J1 if I had to cancel my waiver. So I had to cancel my waiver at that time because I needed some more time before I could, stay. So I had to cancel my waiver that time, and I was given a 1 year J1 extension. I was lucky to get 1 more year of J1 extension. I had to, do a lot of things and talk to my supervisor to get that extension. And that 1 year gave me opportunity to, get the waiver so that, I can stay in US for longer time. So I don't have to go back. And so that was a case which doesn't happen most of the time. You don't get it. If you don't have the waiver, you cannot do that. You have to get the waiver and then you can extend. But that was something happened. I was lucky to get that. And after that, I applied. I got a waiver eventually, and then I moved to university jobs, and I got my H1 visa, and then applied for green card, and that was my thing. Like when I got a green card, so I felt like working in academia for a long time. I realized that this is not me. This is not my job. I should not be in academia because there are not so many benefits. The salary is not that good, and you have to work day and night, and there is no such what do you call as team effort, or there's no team collaborations, and you cannot collaborate. You're working on your project, and it's only you. It's only about you. So you have to do whatever you can do. There is no such help, or there's no such collaboration with different groups or with your colleagues. So I thought, like, there should be a different way, and I wanted to go in the industry, but I didn't have the visa. So once I got the green card, I started looking at jobs in industry. But the industry was
Sorry to interrupt. We will get in more details about the industry, but before anything, I want to give our audience a fair chance that you can introduce them with the whole biopharma industry. Allow our listeners to have an opportunity to understand the introductory overview of this yet concealed and unexplored area of biopharmaceuticals, or even industry in general, for most Kashmiris out there. So what are your thoughts on that, please?
Yeah, That's a good point before I talk about the industry. So there are different uh, industry levels, like there are different jobs based on your skills or what your experience are. So we talk about pharmaceutical industry, we talk about biopharma industry, we talk about biotechnology. So it's all about what your experience is. So if you want to go to the pharma industry, so which is kind of, most of the experiences, if you have done your masters in chemistry, bachelor's in chemistry, so you will like to pursue career in pharmaceutical company. But pharmaceutical companies, there are a lot of pharmaceutical companies, but if you talk about a biopharma, it's as the name suggests, it's related to the biological sources. So anything, if it is manufactured in or extracted from a living source, it's which we also call as a biologicals. So is related to biopharma. So there are many industries all over the world, and particularly if we talk about US, there are so many opportunities in biopharma where you can pursue your career, and it's all about its application. It's more like an applicable science. When you're working in the academia, it's a basic research. Whatever projects you are working on, whether it's a molecular biology, protein biochemistry, any field you're working on, it doesn't tell you where it goes. So it's just basically you're doing your research, you're publishing papers, and you're doing whatever best you can do. But for the industry, it's totally different world. For a biopharma, for example, you're working and whatever work you're working, like for example, you're working on a monoclonal antibodies. So there are two different things which I'll like to mention before I talk about that. So small molecules and large molecules. So when you're working with a small molecule, that's more like a chemically synthesized drugs, and which we use on a daily basis. And now there's a large molecule, which is related more to a biopharma, for example, monoclonal antibodies, vaccines, hormones, and gene therapy products, as Mr. Wajid Saab, talked about my role. So those are the products which you when you work about when you talk about working with a biopharma. So there are certain kind of what do you call that, where it exactly goes. So when you talk about drugs, medicines, it's always you talk about the patients. You want to make sure that you're working on something which goes to the patients. And it's a very interesting study when you work on some of the projects and you realize that you are part of some of the studies where your research and your work decides the life of human, because it's different from the academia, and it's totally based on the outcome of your work. So
Yeah. I think that's very accurately put, Mr. Hanief Saab. And please allow me to add a few words on that as well. I know you gave a great introduction of the industry in itself, but I want to give my audience a fair chance to understand that there is an economic view as well behind. If I just take biotech industry in consideration, then the industry itself is booming. If we go past 10 years in 2016, the overall market evaluation was around $400 billion, and it's expected to grow even more in the next projected years. I guess the statistics around that is that in the year 2025, it's going to be double its amount. So that economic projection in mind should be incentivized by our young Kashmiri audience to get lured towards the biopharma world, right? Do you agree on this, Mr. Hanief Saab?
exactly. As you said, that biotechnology is booming, and but again, you're talking about working with a biopharma. You always look for something where you can see, like, okay, this is the field you are in a position where you can have more opportunities. As you said, it's booming. It's like economy is very in the industry level. There's more money in there, and that is, as I talked about, the difference between academia and industry is basically what benefits, what future prospects you have in terms of your growth advancement. So for the industry, if you don't really have to know, you don't have to really have a lot of publications. You don't have to really being like having many posters or, where you have presented. Or so it's more like your technical part. It's more like your skills, what you can bring to the industry, what you can bring to the biopharma. Are you good enough in any assay, whether we talk about ELISA, we talk about qPCR, we talk about cell-based assays, we talk about, you know, virology studies, anything you're doing, any skill you have, how you can enhance that skill. And industry gives you a better platform to
Right,
work on and enhance those skills. In
right.
academia, whatever you know, it's you know, but in industries, when you work in the industry, you get a better chance to enhance your skills, and for your job opportunities are more available for you if you are working in the industry.
Hanif Sab, on the similar note, moving on to my next question, obviously, and it should be interesting for most of the young Kashmiris out there who are looking for a business career, especially in industry. What do you think what are some of the typical jobs that get associated with the pharma world specifically? Please give them a brief walkthrough on that.
There are a lot of jobs in industry, like if you talk about entry level jobs and higher level jobs, because you start with if you have if you have done your master's or you have done bachelor's in science, so you have a research associate positions, you have research scientist positions, then you have scientist positions depending on your education, if you have a PhD, and then you have different levels of the positions, and then you have some of the positions. So there are different sects. So let me split into different. So there are some of the regulatory jobs, there are some of the manager level jobs, there are some director level jobs in there. So it's a vast um, you know field. So you have a lot of jobs in terms of what you have done in research, and if you can have some kind of, if you have a teaching experience, I would not say really in the industry, but if you have those mentoring experience, if you can have a good leadership skills, you can also get into the industry in terms of, if you're doing if you're doing some work in terms of if you work as a scientist, but at the same time you can work as a leader, you can also coach, you can mentor people. So you can get some of the jobs which are like a group leader jobs. You can have jobs like manager level jobs. So there are many opportunities in terms of finding a role or finding a career in industry. So I hope
Yeah.
I answered your question.
Yeah, you answered it very accurately, and I can even speak on my own experience. I'm also from Kashmir, and I transitioned to US, and I was debating between an academic career and an industry career, and I realized that what is my end goal, and I realized like having a life-saving vaccine or a medicine coming out from my own experience, and somewhere where I could see myself working as a team in a collab, where I could see myself grow and develop. And I guess you also had a similar goal in your mind. So hey, if you have similar goals like us, then you could see yourself aligning with the pharma sector. So being respectful of the original question, just like Mr. Hanif Saab mentioned that biopharma is not only there for a science student or a science degree holder. It's definitely a misnomer in today's world. Do you agree on that, Hanif Saab?
I mean, I would kind of partly agree with that, but I would say like, yeah, there are opportunities if you want to do something. There have been instances, there have been examples where I have worked with people who didn't have the experience, who didn't have the education background, education in science, but they have changed their fields. They have done some training courses. There are so many opportunities. You can do something beyond your, job opportunities. You can do. There are a lot of opportunities if you really wanted to pursue career in industry. If you want to be in that role, so yeah, you can definitely. There are inspirational examples. People have been moved from chemistry to biochemistry, and they have got a jobs where you can even they talk about molecular biology. I have one of my colleague who was in chemistry. He's only talking about chemistry. He didn't have any biochemistry experience. He didn't have any molecular biology. But he got a job in industry. He worked hard, and he wanted to know more about molecular biology. He wanted more about biological related things. And now he's doing good in the industry, and he has a good job. So there's nothing is impossible. I mean, when you work hard, and if you have your goals set, so you definitely would do that. That's why I said partly. I agree with you partly, but yeah, there is always an opportunity. So
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, so I just want to mention it to our audience that industry sector can come with a diversity. It's a mixture of diversity. It's a big pool, and it can take up different skill sets, and it depends on an individual what they bring to the market, what they bring to the business. And I think if it could be provided to a young Kashmiri, it can give them a job security, different wages from like a student, from a student perspective, or like a student coming from like arts, commerce, or engineering, who can take upon like different roles and responsibilities. And in industry, you can see yourself working as like a process technician, even as a young scientist. You could be working in quality control, and even engineers who end up in industry working as bioengineers. So for our audience, Hanif Saab, I just want to say that
yeah, no,
we
yeah,
both have a common meaning and a purpose to what we do. That's the take-home message, and we create individual products that eventually ends up saving someone's life, and that should be a good moral incentive driving young Kashmiri to this sector. So biopharma has a purpose, it has a mission, and anything we do has a meaning behind doing things. Correct?
yeah,
Do you
exactly.
agree on that?
Yeah, you hit the target there. Yeah, this is exactly what I wanted to say. But I think you raised a good point about, if there are opportunities for the students, other than if they're not pursuing science. But yeah, I think here you touched a very good point regarding, other options, opportunities, and it reminded me of some of the jobs which are more like a project manager jobs, which are nothing
Right,
to do with science, and
right,
they can
right,
manage people. I have seen there are some of the jobs where you can have projects. You can manage projects. You don't have to know about science. You don't have to know about what is the chemistry, what is the background about certain projects, but you can manage projects. Who is doing what, or how you can manage distribute the work between people. So there are some kind of those jobs available. So you don't have to do something in science. So yeah, you got it right. So thank you.
Thank you. So, anyways, with that question being in momentum, I want to leverage another question. So, Hanisab, if possible, please shed some light for the audience on the topic of if our audience should be taking, or if a young student even should be taking any special courses or certifications that will help them entertain uh, and grow and accelerate within a career domain in a biopharma or even industry in general. And additionally, what would be some of the minimum qualifications for the Kashmiris to get a foot in the door kind of a job?
So yeah, as I said in the beginning regarding getting into the industry, it's hard to get into the industry if you're coming from Kashmir and looking for a job industry. Yes, there are opportunities in the industry level, as you can get a training, but you need to have the better understanding exactly what you do. But I didn't touch that point, which is about when when you want to come to US, when you want to pursue career. Like, do you want to do education here? Do you want to do PhD, or do you want to come after your PhD? So those are the different scenarios you want to go. So if you want to pursue PhD in here, there are more opportunities in terms of getting your job, in the industry right away. Because the reason I'm talking about that, so you have to apply for a GRE exam, and then after getting that, which is tough, but there's nothing is impossible. But if you get that exam, do the GRE, qualify for that, and then come to US, there are more doors open for you. And because that's not like you have to be in the academia for a longer time before you get into the industry to wait for the visa and all that. But I think if you do the education here, and I think it's right away. If you're bachelor's, master's, you don't have to even do PhD. I mean, that's the difference between academia and industry. I don't know, we didn't touch that point. I think that will be very helpful for the audience to know that what is the difference between academia and industry in terms of uh, when you can get a job in industry. I was talking about my personal experience, like I had to go through a lot of hurdles in getting an industry job. But for people who do education here, starting maybe from bachelor's or master's or even PhD, there are opportunities you can get a jobs right away. So I don't think there will be any certifications for, if I know it correctly, that you have to do some kind of certification. But yeah, definitely if you're in the IT field, there are certain courses you do. But in terms of getting into the industry in biopharma or pharma industry, it's basically your skill set which
Correct.
matters most, and
That's
whatever education
exactly
you
correct.
have, whatever you have done. So that really helps. Like for example, if you go in a small company, small biopharma, you wanted to enhance your skills, you're working with some other techniques, any technique, ELISA, or I'm always talking about ELISA because I like to work on ELISA more. So any technique, you enhance that technique, and then you look for the jobs, you keep looking for other jobs, so that's how you grow. So it's more like a training on your skills and then enhancing them and getting a better job elsewhere. So I
Right,
think that's what
right.
I can say.
Yeah, and I can even give a personal touch to this question because I have been a student very recently coming to industry sector as well. So what skill set you are mentioning is basically a student having the understanding first, definitely a right mindset, and then they should know which area in the pharmaceutical sector they see themselves growing, and then kind of transition accordingly.
Yeah.
Regarding the courses, like personally, what I have used is most of the certifications, anyways, are done online nowadays, and I myself have used different platforms like Coursera, Biopharma Institute. I learned process development and manufacturing from ISPE, if the audience is taking notes by any chance. There is a discretion, however, some of the courses were free and some of the courses were not. So you would end up paying for some fees um, for some of the courses. But you have to look at the overall benefit that you're getting certified and mastered to
Yeah, I
broaden
will.
your skill set.
Yeah, I
Mhm.
think that's a good point, but at the same time, for industry jobs, I mean, for science jobs, I'll talk about more like John, because they're more like a lab-based jobs. So,
Right.
I mean, as we said, like, there could be other jobs which we can, uh, you know, you know, anyone can pursue. But I think it's very important. I mean, as you said, the courses, and I would say, like, if you have to start, working in the industry, if you have really interest in working in the industry, you start, do Google search, look for some of the main uh, tech, skill set which you need for the industry. I mean, also maybe I will talk about, which will be a little bit, further about which is GMP. So you look for, when you work in the industry, it's totally different what you work in the academia. Academia, we talk about more like a GLP technique, which is good lab
Correct.
practices. And
Correct.
then we talk about good manufacturing practices, which is a GMP. So in the GMP environment, it's very difficult. So you wanted to get into the industry. Once you get in the industry, then you have to survive in the industry. So industry jobs are, there are a lot of jobs. There are a lot of jobs in industry, but for the industry jobs, you really need to have your skill set. So you really need to do your homework before you and get a job in industry, because it's easy to
Right.
get in the industry, but to survive in the industry is difficult. I don't want to scare people, but I wanted to tell them, like, you need to be sure that you are the person in the industry, because I have seen there are examples where people have not been happy in terms of working in the industry. So I know there are opportunities. I don't want to discourage people. I don't want to tell them not to go industry, but I'm saying that if you can read about, do literature search before you do look for the jobs in industry. There are so many jobs, but yes, you have to do literature, as Mr. Wajid said, courses and all that. I'm not really sure about the courses, but he may know more about that. But I will say that training, doing a lab training is more like when you're doing some work in the lab, so that enhance your skills. If you do the coursework, you can just watch
You're
videos or
leveraging
do
your
some,
skill set,
yeah,
right?
you're just kind of getting an understanding, and then you have to do it physically in the lab to enhance your skills and to just sell yourself. So that's what I can say.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And with that question in mind, I wanna shift some gears, and I wanna move to my next question, which will be most important for our audience. I want to capture your perspective on what do you think is the scope of an industry career. Let's talk about mainland India first. What do you think there is a scope? Is there a scope in India for an industry sector?
I will start from Kashmir, our
Sure,
own motherland. Yeah.
sure, that's fine. We can
So I
start with
think
Kashmir.
there are very limited opportunities in Kashmir. As we know, we're born, brought it up in Kashmir, and then we have spent most of the time there. I would say in Kashmir, I don't think there are any industry jobs. I mean, there will be some of the jobs, but I don't think there is. If you really want to get into the industry, I don't think that Kashmir is the place. But yes, definitely, if you wanted to be in the academia, yes, if you wanted to do, faculty job and some teaching jobs, yeah, there are a lot of jobs in terms of in academia in Kashmir. But when you move from Kashmir to India, and I know I split it. Sorry, Kashmir and India, I totally don't connect it. So I feel like Kashmir separate and India separate now. And when you talk about India, there are a lot of jobs in India in terms of industry jobs. Yes, but for jobs in India, I don't think there is much of a training. There is much of a concept regarding when we talk about GMP practices and all that. I don't think you learn a lot in terms of that. I mean, you have to give yourself a chance to move out of India and really get into the industry. That would be like anything like USA or any other country. But I don't think there are many opportunities in terms of industry. Yes, there are in India, but I would say outside India, yes, if you want to get into a job in the company, you have to leave. You have to leave Kashmir, and then you have to look for the jobs in India, and then pursue the career further. If you don't want to leave India, that's fine. But I would say more opportunities are outside India in this field.
Yeah, it's funny that you mentioned that there are no opportunities in Kashmir. Because I have a different perspective on that question. Because when I see Kashmir, yeah, it might still be a bit behind in the pipeline for a pharma sector, especially. But I want to capture that it's noteworthy, and we should remember that in the near future, Kashmir could be a potential pharma pivot because it has low cost of electricity. With hydropower, we can see that we can develop manufacturing sites there. And if I'm not mistaken, Jammu region, again, thanks to hydropower, because they have few companies there already established. And I have some parent sites here as well. The sites that are in Jammu region are Lupin, Cadila, Sun Pharma, and there are some local manufacturers in Jammu. So my point being that maybe a Kashmiri student could transition to Jammu region and look for jobs. What are your thoughts on that?
I know you're right in that, but I'm saying that pursue, your career. I mean, I would say like it could be a good starting point, but I'm in terms of your growth and your opportunities. I mean, really, are you really looking a career there, or you just wanted to get some experience? I mean, you said that will be like this just the starting point. And then you have to definitely get in. If you really want to get in the industry, you have to pursue, you have to come out of your comfort zone. You have to just look for the opportunities outside Kashmir, outside India, and see where you see yourself. Maybe sometimes people, you don't judge yourself. You think, oh, maybe I will not do, I won't be able to do it. Maybe I don't have those skills. But you don't know. You never know. Maybe you're more talented than you think yourself you are. And then you can give yourself opportunity. Maybe you do better than anybody else. Who you feel like are doing better than you. But yeah, you never underestimate yourself. And if you talk about industry, so there are two things when we talk about industry and academia. My perspective is different. So if you tell me about what are your thoughts if someone from Kashmir or some Kashmiri, they want to pursue career in academia, I would say, I mean, you don't have to really worry about leaving Kashmir or coming out, applying for jobs in industry. Then your job, there are a lot of opportunities in terms of academia in Kashmir and in India. I don't think there are jobs here because most of the people who I have seen, or maybe I am the example, I left academia and then I, got into a job in industry. So there are so many examples like that. People come here, and they get in a job in the academia just to come to US and then change the field because they realize that there are not so many benefits, there are not so many opportunities being in industry, you're not going anywhere, and there are so many funding options. As I don't know, most of the audience might not know, there are, in the faculty, I have faced that. I had got a faculty position, I had a junior faculty position at the University of Rochester, and then I faced some issues there, like we didn't have the funding, our lab lost funds, and we had to look for it. So that was another reason also to see, like, okay, there is nothing here, in the academia, there is no future. So I would say, and getting into the industry, coming to US, pursue the career, I think the industry jobs are booming, as Mr. Wajid already mentioned about that. So yes.
Yeah, I mean, you shed some light on the academic perspective, but I wanna leverage the industrial side again, because I don't want to scare my audience, and I wanna tell them that there is hope, because some people might not have an opportunity to transition abroad, and
Yeah,
for like family reasons, personal reasons, they
yeah,
might
yeah,
have
yeah,
to
that's
stay
right.
stay back in mainland India. And I just want to tell them that maybe Kashmir might not be a good place for a pharma sector or even an industry sector, but it could be in a potential future. But in mainland India, if I have to talk facts, um,
Yeah,
India ranks third worldwide for overall pharmaceutical production, especially by volume. There are like 3,000 different drug companies. There are close to about 12,000 manufacturing sites. And if you're the right trained person, it could provide you with a livelihood. And very lately in 2021, there have been foreign direct investments done by the government, and there have been various economic drivers which should meet the demand for health coverage and policies for India itself. So that creates a job gap, um, that that opens up a pocket for our young audience to look into and scope into.
yeah,
So what are your thoughts on that?
yeah. I mean, you rightly said. Now, like, there are always like things like, people cannot afford to, leave Kashmir, or, leave, come abroad or do something, search, look for a job in industry. But as you said, starting point, which I talked about earlier, starting point. I mean, you will be in India. You don't have to invest too much. You don't have to just spend too much of money on that. If you want to come out of the Kashmir, really want to do it, I would definitely suggest and advise that you leave Kashmir and look for a job in India, an industry job, because in industry jobs, yes, in India there are a lot of jobs. Um, Outside Kashmir in India, you can start working in there and then see where you go. Judge yourself. Just see like what your skills are. As I already told, like people sometimes don't know what how skillful they are. So judge yourself. See how where you go. If you feel like okay, you're getting an opportunity, you working in India, and you see like oh, you get an offer for somewhere else outside. You applied for a position and you got a very good job, so why not just pursue your career and just move forward. And I think we all Kashmiris would love to see all Kashmiris succeeding. We all will see like Kashmiris doing good. I mean, when you see like in the US, you see a Kashmiri doing good, oh wonderful, okay. So we want more Kashmiris to really pursue their career in industry, do good, and we'd be happy to see Kashmiris doing that. So as you said, Mr. Wajid, that there are opportunities in India. I would agree with you. Definitely, there are industry jobs in India. Definitely, you can find a job in there. But I would not say I would, I don't know. I mean, maybe I'm wrong, but I would say in the industry jobs there, yes, for the beginning, you can start working in there. But I have seen a lot of things in there in terms of how the industry works there, and how the stable jobs they are, because there are a lot of things like you get a job and then you're being fired, or there is something funny happens in there in terms of job, because they don't provide you the right amount of training, which
Right.
I will say, I mean, I have not worked in industry back in India, but I have friends who work in industry back in India. But I have heard a lot of bad things about how the industry works and how the system is. Yes, you can get training. Yes, you can learn some skills and then use those, enhance those skills by looking for a job outside India. That's what I can say.
Agreed, agreed. So Hanif Sab, let's dig in a little deeper and let's discuss Um, for a PhD student or even a master's student, can they transition from a laboratory setup and get their foot in the door for pharmaceuticals? And since you have seen best of both worlds, you have seen academic side, you have seen the industry side, what do you see as goods and bads about it? Or like, if I have to frame it differently, what are some of the advantages and disadvantages of both worlds?
I didn't understand your question. You said from a lab setting to industry. Do you mean like from
Yes.
academia to industry?
Yeah, if they're going from an academic to an industrial setup, what do you see as a good and bad behind it?
Yeah, that's a very good question actually. So for the academia part, as I mentioned in between our discussion, that for the academia jobs, you really are on your own, right? You have been given a responsibility, you have been given a project on which you have to perform. It's just you have to perform, right? You have to do like how good you are in certain skill, because there's not a proper training in there. Like for example, when I did my PhD uh, from Jamia, and my field was different. I worked on a protein biochemistry. That was totally different. I didn't have the experience working in the molecular biology lab. So when I came to US, I started working in a molecular biology lab. So it was very challenging for me because I didn't have the experience. So for the academia, you don't get much training in there. You have to just do on your own. Whatever skills you have to kind of research and learn, watch videos, and that's what I did. I'll try to learn about different things in the molecular biology lab and kind of helped myself. Nobody helped me that time because there was no such training as we see it in industry. So the difference, advantages, disadvantages there are. For the academia, you have your own project, you have to do your own, and then you have to publish. It's very important to publish your work, whatever work you are doing, you have to publish so that you'll be recognized, and then you can get a job, which is very difficult to get in academia. Some of the places they don't uh, hire you because if you don't have any publication, they look at your publication. They don't look at your skill set. They don't look at your what techniques you have. They look at what your project is. What was your end result? What did you do? How many publications you have? Have you presented any seminar? Have you been any conferences? Have you presented a poster, awards, and all that? Those are the things which are the expectations in the industry, in the academia jobs.
I
And for the
totally, yeah, sorry, please go
yeah,
ahead.
yeah. So yeah, just touching now to the industry job.
Hmm.
For the industry, I would say there are advantages and there are disadvantages. That advantages are that you get a better training in there in the industry. If you work in there, you learn different techniques. And for the industry jobs, they don't look at your presentations. When you are applying for a job in industry, it's more like you're talking about your skill set. You're talking about your technique. So I mean, if you have a good skill set, if you have expertise are good, you have a lot of experience in working in different techniques, then you can get a good job in industry. So advantages are that means you you can uh, you can be better trained in there, and you have better benefits, and you have better job opportunities, and you can get better compensation. For disadvantages is that, as I was saying, that you have to make sure you're meeting your deadlines, and you
Yep.
have to make sure you are up to the mark. Like it's not only doing the essay, it's like just consistently performing there. But at the same time, you have better collaboration, and you learn a lot of things because you're not only one person doing the things in the industry. When you come, they don't expect you to know everything. They don't expect you to, okay, so do it. They will train you. They will have people who already worked on that particular experiment or essay or whatever. They train you, and then you take over. So you get a better training in industry. That's a plus. But then you have to make sure that you are consistently performing in terms of meeting the deadlines and performing. So I think it's good and bad. But I would say in academia, and more disadvantages than advantages, I would say, because yes, there are advantages that When you come to US, this is the only option you have. You get a job in academia, and then you move from academia to industry because you want to, enhance your skills, learn more about, and also about the visa, which is easier to get in the academia than getting in the industry job. So, yeah,
I also want
I hope
to
I clear everything. Is there anything
Yes,
else you have?
yes, no, you absolutely cleared the question, and I have a very similar perspective on that one. I have lately seen a lot of PhDs and master's students coming from a different variety of academic pools. They come from abroad on just basic working visas. They join the pharma market, and the main reason for them joining is because the market is really hot. We need the workforce. So additionally, with that high workforce demand and that good pay, it could be a good combination of a healthy drug market. So that's definitely a good thing. And with heavy venture capital investments in startups, that has also been booming lately, and it has created a big hiring spree. So obviously there are opportunities more in the industrial sector, and they haven't been there for a while now. And this is not just targeting for the undergraduates or postgraduates. I also want to give advice to my undergraduate fellows as well. I don't want to keep them out of the realm, but they could also look into beyond their degrees. They could look into apprenticeship programs. They could look into internships to get their foot in the door, kind of a job. So Harisab, on a similar note, moving along the path, my next question to you is that what does a successful job application look like? Have you ever come across in your personal life? Have you ever come across any resumes or any portfolios? What stood out most from the candidate? And what did you see what were some of the red flags that you want to highlight to our audience?
Okay, so I would say like you mean industry jobs, right?
Correct.
Yeah, I think as I was, I'm repeating myself again. I think I talked about that earlier. That for industry jobs, it doesn't matter your publications, doesn't matter at all. I mean, when you're writing, when you have a resume, you make sure you put your strengths, you put your skill set right at the top. Like you put your skills, technical skills, whatever you have done, and whatever awards you have achieved previously, if you have worked in the industry before. If it's your first job, that's a different story. If you have no experience, so you put it whatever experience you have back. Like if you have worked in the academia before, and then you're looking for a career in industry, put your strengths right at the front. I mean, I will tell you my story about when I was applying at jobs in academia. My publications are always at the top. I will always prefer to put the publications right at there. Oh, I should put the publications. I should
They
just say,
certainly
okay,
don't
I have
help.
so many. I have the publications. I will highlight those. Oh, okay, I have the paper. But slowly, I started taking out my publication. When I started my industry jobs, I started to learn that your publications doesn't matter at all. You just have to take it out. Even the recommendation letters, like when I was in the academia, I need to have like three recommendation letters or three or five recommendation letters from the people I know or worked with who can recommend me. But I didn't realize I need recommendation letters when I was working. I started looking for a job in industry. I never so far no industry jobs I have been told to have a reference letter or recommendation. So publication, I would say, even remove those from your list.
Your
Don't
skill
keep them.
set, your skill
Yeah,
set is your reference,
important.
is your
Yeah,
recommendation.
skill. Everything is skill. Or any technique you have done, and any recommendation, reference, names. They don't, and also don't put too much information on your resume regarding the email addresses and all that things like which is not gonna. Just make it very precise, concise. Like your skills should be there, and then bullet point, right? Your main thing. If you have done something good in the past, and just highlight that. And I think that is very important in making resumes, because the industry resumes, we call that, should be very short and precise. It should not be like in the academia resumes should be like where like 2-3 pages resumes, because it's also had the publications, poster presentations, seminars, and all that. But industries, though, they just wanted to see. And also one more important thing I will touch here is job application, when you look for a job application, you read the description, job description. When you see the job description, you just highlight those points, like where are you applying, whatever are the requirements, you just kind of put it in your resume. You don't have to kind of lie, but you have to just adjust your resume. That means you are the right person for this job. So put your information in your resume related to the job. So that is very important. So
So
yeah.
Hanifa, moving on a similar note, when we talk about skill sets, so we understand that a PhD student coming from a lab domain or even a master's student coming from a lab domain, there are above and beyond skill sets that they need. So I want you to provide an advice to the Kashmiri students out there that are planning to make a career or even a lateral transition. And again, keeping in focus, how should they really enhance their skill set to get hired, and what skill set should they be really working on?
That's a very good question, actually, because if you're starting a career in industry, you really need to know what exactly you want and what skill sets you should possess. I mean, I will talk about, as Mr. Wajid, you already mentioned about, if you're from a different field, what do you think the opportunities are for a person who's done arts, commerce, other than science? I'll talk more about science in terms of what skills you need to achieve. But if you are in the scientific world, you always want to see like what field you want to, what is your interest, where you want, because there's a vast areas of biological science. Like you want to go in the molecular biology, you want to go in the protein biochemistry, you want to go in the virology, you want to go in the cell biology, you want to go in signal transduction, you want to go in a cancer biology. There's a lot of things. So your interest matters a lot. I mean, definitely your skills are important, because you sometimes are working in different areas, but you do the same assay. You're doing ELISA in a molecular biology lab, or you're doing an ELISA in cell biology lab. There is the requirement, different kind of. So I would say that you have to find out what exactly your interest is. Do you want to do some, you want to pick one area where you want to do, and then start, searching about that, uh, what exactly you want to learn about that. So if you talk about the molecular biology, you need to know about the basics on that, cloning. How do you construct the DNA? How you can design primers? How you can do the PCR, standard PCR? That's one other thing. How you can do the gene expression profile? How you can do qPCR, if you know about anything about qPCR. So if you know about transformation, ligation, digestion, whatever. And so those are the things you need to know about that if you want to be in the molecular biology. But there are other protein biochemistry labs where you want to know about more about the proteins. You want to do ELISA, or if you're in the cell-based assays, you want to learn about the cell-based assays. So there are a lot of skills you want to learn about, and first you have to decide like which field you want to go in. And yes, I would say qPCR, ELISA, cell-based assay, and transformation, transduction, transfection. Yeah, a
Yeah,
lot of things.
and I agree with you. I think, excuse me. So I think that comes from like a laboratory skill set. But I would also like to add on this one where, and please feel free to disagree with me on this one, Hanisab. I believe that there are postgraduates and doctoral candidates are out there, and it's high time for them that if they want to crack the industry domain, they need to start thinking outside the box. When they create their resumes, CVs, apart from their core abilities and core qualities that they have acquired from the lab, it's just not enough for them to crack into a business domain, because industry doesn't run only by a core ability. So I think they also need to enhance their abilities in project planning skills, managing different timelines for budgets and client deliverables, have the ability to do conflict resolutions. And I guess the most critical of the item is teamwork, because if a PhD student or a master's student who has been working alone in the lab for a while, and suddenly they come into the industry sector and then they realize they have to work in functional groups, and
Yeah.
that is something a doctoral candidate or a postgraduate definitely lacks. If not, then you're good. but most of them do. So I guess that's definitely an area for them to groom themselves on for a better interview, right? Do you agree on that? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, that's what I earlier said, that it's a different world in the industry. Like, you need to collaborate. You need to know how to collaborate with people. As you said, meeting deadlines, client deadline, project deadlines. So you have to learn those skills, and you have to make sure that you are there to deliver. It's not like your project. It's somebody is dependent on you. For example, I will
Exactly.
talk about the process development group. So there are, in the industry, there is a process development and analytical. I'm an analytical. I'm always in the line of
I'm a
fire.
process development, so I can totally
So
relate to you.
you're always kind of giving me tough time. So because what I have faced, that is like, process development group is always after analytical. So they're always waiting for us to deliver. So I mean, they do their job. They said, okay, now it's your turn to take over. So it's like the same thing, when you're doing some kind of, you're playing some sports. So it's always like, it's a team game, right? In cricket, for example, if we say, like, one player cannot, you know, uh, do everything. So it has to be the
It's a team
team who
effort.
can deliver. And then,
Correct.
so that's what I mean. If it is on analytical, then we have to take the responsibility to deliver. And then if
Right.
we have a QC lab, then we have to kind of pass on to the QC lab to kind of take over. So I think it's like everybody's job, everybody's responsibility, and make sure they are ready for that before they think about getting into the industry.
Correct. And that's the most critical item they should actually think about before coming into an industry domain, I think.
Yeah.
So Hanif Saab, moving on, for the sake of an example, let's say if you in person are about to pursue a new career in a pharma sector tomorrow, what are some of your tricks and tips to impress a recruiter during an interview? Would you mind sharing some of your key tricks with an audience?
For the industry job, right?
Yeah, let's say you were about to pursue a job tomorrow. So how would you impress a recruiter?
I would say, like, talk about your skill set, what you have. I mean, I would say, like, be a good listener first in the industry jobs. I mean, sometimes what happens, you keep talking, oh, hey, I have done this, and then I have experience. So sometimes they don't really want to know more about what you have done and what you have done, and then what you can bring. So that's a very important thing. Like, I was saying about the job description, which is very important. You talk about, what you have done and how it can help growing your company. For example, it should relate to the job you're applying for. It should relate. Your previous experience should not be like you did something and now you're looking for a job in your company, that I'm interested to work in your company. But there should be some connection. You should talk about the company's growth, how the company you're applying, you should know more about that. You should do the research. First thing you should research the company. You should know about what company is doing, what is the revenue, how the company is going to go after 5 years or 10 years from now. And you should also relate yourself in terms of what your skill set is and what they are looking for. So then you have to connect it. So you have to be very smart enough to talk about only what they require. You don't talk about some techniques which you have done which is not related to the job. It should be more job related skill. And if you talk about that, you have to be smart enough in terms of discussing only those areas. So yeah, yes.
Yeah.
Sorry,
I,
go
I
ahead.
think I think I totally agree on that, because when I was looking for a job personally, they, besides my own skill set and my abilities, what they wanted to know in essence was like, why do I want to join them? What do I bring to them? What
Yes.
do I bring to the market? So I had to read about the market valuation and portfolio of the company, and then trying to align my own self to see if I'm really a fit for them, if they are a fit for me. So it's a vice versa.
Yeah,
It's like shaking hands. It should work both ways, right? So I
definitely.
think I think what you just mentioned is a very intuitive approach, and I must say our audience is taking notes on it.
Yeah.
So Hanif Saab, in that perspective, let's just keep in focus for the non-science students. maybe we can help them out as well. Students coming from law, students coming from arts, student coming from commerce. Do you see these folks settling in a biopharma sector somewhere? Do you see them settling in industry somewhere? And what does their job projection look like?
Yeah, I mean, there are opportunities. I would not say there are not opportunities. We earlier touched that topic that, there are some of the jobs which you can um, see in the industry, like project manager. I think that is the job. I would say there are certain um, sects of that. It's not only you need to have an experience in that. You can start from managing a small team of people in the industry and then go from there. So those are the jobs I would say, other than the science. So, but there are other regulatory jobs which also doesn't need any experience in science. So there could be a lot of jobs we should see, like, if you're not in a science field, you definitely would have find a lot of opportunities in terms of getting a job in industry. So as we discussed earlier, that it you need to be ready for the industry job. It's not a matter of what you can do, but I think if you're from a non-scientific background, you can definitely find a job industry, but you really need to know the culture. You really need to know how the system works in the industry. So you need to do a homework before really get it. But there are opportunities other than scientific jobs. So yeah.
Yeah, I think, and if I have to elaborate your answer, I can definitely give a personal touch to that. Something that just came to my mind, and as a side note, there, besides like science holders, for non-science students, there are definitely opportunities in commercial space. Look, if you can look into IT, you can look into finance, you can look into human resources. That's where I see these excuse me, that's where I see these non-science students essentially getting plugged in. Like besides pharma world, there are different additional industrial sectors also out there. Like we have back in Kashmir, we have students who pursue food science, geoscience, meteorology, petroleum, polymer, toxicology, and one of my few of my favorites, or at least one of my favorites, has always been an alternative working with the media and the internet sector. You could see yourself working as a science writer.
Yeah.
That to me is very interesting, or even a policy maker for that fact. So that's something definitely a non-science degree holder could look into,
Yeah,
right? Do you agree?
yeah. As you touched all the points, that's here you go, because those are the opportunities you can find in the industry world. So that you don't have to know more about the science. So yes.
Hanif Saab, so just with the respect of time, I just have a few more questions for you. I just want to ask out of curiosity, in a personal space, like which job platform websites do you see a student utilizing, or what should they utilize?
Okay, I will say one thing. I will say the first thing I will say that LinkedIn is the best um, place, I would say. I mean, as that's my personal experience. Yeah, there are certain other search engines where you can look for jobs, but I would say LinkedIn is the site where you don't have to even apply. You're being reached by the recruiters. If you have a LinkedIn um, account, you can definitely find jobs. I mean, and also the good thing about LinkedIn is that you can talk to the recruiters about what you want, because they can refine you. Like, okay, there's a job. This is a job. Is it good for you? So you can really, sometimes what you do when you apply, for example, Glassdoor, yeah, Indeed, or whatever other search engines, and you look for, or Google search, any job, anything like, or simply hired, something like that. But I would say that my personal experience, that was not really, you don't get a good job. Then you have to really say, oh, okay, is this really your job you're looking for? Do you think that this is the right job for you? But I would say that
Right.
LinkedIn is the account you should create, and then you should start talking to recruiters. They will reach out to you, you will be reached, and then you can kind of refine yourself and see, like, okay, this is what I'm looking for. I'm looking for a good job now. I feel like this is good for me. So I would say
Yeah,
LinkedIn is the first number
definitely.
one.
Yeah, definitely. I also agree on that. I have personally been using LinkedIn myself for especially my networking. and professional circle domain. One thing I definitely want to point out is that if you're a student and you're on LinkedIn, one thing to keep in mind is that you want to demarcate a social domain versus a professional domain. If you're on LinkedIn, do not make it into a social
Yeah.
domain. Don't make it into a social outburst. You
Yeah.
definitely
Yeah.
do want to expand your network, but strictly keep it professional.
Yeah.
So yeah,
That
definitely
is
LinkedIn has been
that is the
one of my
difference between
favorite
Facebook and
choices.
LinkedIn. There's
Exactly,
a difference
exactly,
between Facebook and LinkedIn. You have to differentiate it. It's very
exactly.
important because
If there is no
LinkedIn is nothing.
demarcation, then it becomes
Yeah.
another Facebook for you.
And also, like you look for, sometimes you get an invitations regarding the and look for that. When you accept it, make sure that it's connected to something for your professional fields. Something someone wants to connect to you. Just look for the profile for that. Look for that person. Who's the person who wants to connect with you? Is it really going to help you in terms of LinkedIn? Facebook is different, LinkedIn is different. So
Right.
LinkedIn, you don't accept that the people. I mean, it's not like you want to be rude, but I think you want to kind of, as Mr. Wajid, beautifully mentioned it about, you have to differentiate those two things. So LinkedIn is totally professional network.
Anisa,
Yeah.
moving aside from
Mhm.
the industry and academia, I just wanna grab your attention and have your general opinion on the JK Scientist platform. What recommendations or suggestions would you make for this platform? Just the broadened outreach
I mean,
initiative. No offense to anyone, but do you think this platform is doing a good job to students?
no, I think this is, I would say, I mean, this is wonderful to have, uh, you know, answer, but like whatever we did today, I mean, I hope it was helpful. Whoever was in the audience, whoever was listening to us, I hope it was helpful to them. And I think this is a great move that everyone is doing in this group. And I think we can connect more and we can kind of share information, maybe, uh, you know, try to do it um, on a level, like, everybody can share their experiences, what they have done, and how we can connect with each other, what are the different challenges we have. So I think this is a great step. I would not say, like, yeah, there's always a room for improvement, but I would say that this is well coordinated work, and you all are doing. I mean, I'm so glad that I was part of it today, and you gave me this opportunity to say something and share my experiences and talk about how we can help our Kashmiri brothers and sisters to pursue their career in industry, because we have faced the same thing. We wanted to help them and kind of make their path easier, because when we have these kind of platforms, it really helps to get an idea about what I'm doing. Maybe if we kind of give information about how they should pursue their career, maybe they will change. Sometimes you want to do something different. Oh, no, 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 after that discussion, maybe we should do something else, because there are not many opportunities. So it's always helpful to give some kind of feedback, or give some information. But I think it was great talking to you, Mr. Wajid, and being
Thank you.
part of this today. And it's always good to help our Kashmiri brothers and sisters. I'm glad I was part of it today.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you so much for answering all of my questions. I
Are
really
there any
appreciate
questions
you.
in the chat, or I don't know if
Yeah,
we covered everything?
yeah, we did definitely cover everything. I just wanna give a last key takeaway before we wrap this up. Maybe for the audience who didn't get a chance to join this session from start, I guess the advice for my fellow Kashmiri brothers and sisters out there is the key take the key takeaway, that the key message is that the pharmaceutical company jobs are not an easy task to find. So you require an excellent CV with your education and your work background. And sometimes that's not enough. That's not going to be enough for you. And you have to have different skill sets that will help you in ever evolving environment in a pharmaceutical company. Different skills, different programs, different internships will help you excel in different positions and different roles. It's very crucial and critical that you own these skills at the end of the day to establish for yourself a very prosperous place in the industry. So that's my key takeaway. And with all that being said, I would like to thank all our audience for tuning in today's session. Hopefully this was helpful to all of you and gave you at least some basic insight into the industry paradigm. If you guys have missed this session, if you have any questions for myself or Hanief Saab, we would love to take them offline. And please feel free to reach us out on our LinkedIn profiles, which I can share once this video post is finalized. And if that's all, I don't want to deprive our audience to ask any questions. I know there have been a lot of hand raises in the background and they may have questions for either of us. So I'm going to hand over the session back to the moderators for any live questions that might have arrived. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much, Wajid Saab, and thank you so much, Hanief Saab. We have three people lined up. Can we first take up Dr. Javed Sheikh? You can directly interact with either Hanief Saab or Wajid Saab. Please unmute yourself.
Yeah,
Dr.
thank you
Javed.
so much.
Yeah, please.
Yeah, this is Dr. Javed from Kashmir, and I am working as, am I audible?
Yes, we can hear you.
Yeah.
Yes, sir, you're audible.
So I'm right now working as an assistant professor in one of the degree colleges in Srinagar. And I have done my PhD from ICER. If you heard the name of ICERs in India, Indian Institute of Science, Education and Research. And then I moved to USA for a 2 years postdoctorate. And while I was on vacations once to my hometown in Kashmir, I got shortlisted by PSC for this assistant professor post. And like at that time, I went for the interview on my parents' compulsion. I was not so much interested. And after the interview, I went back to USA because it takes time for the final lists to be declared. But after a couple of months, I got selected as an assistant professor by the JKPSC. And after so much discussions, confusions, finally I had to join back here. But after working here for now almost for 5 years, I was wondering if there is a possibility that I can again shift back and try to get a job somewhere in industry in US, or even if academia, if it is possible. During these years, since I have been teaching in a college, the research has kindly it has been on hold for a couple of years, last 2-3 years. And but I was always enthusiastic for research. So now I have been starting a little bit again, but there are not a lot of opportunities over here.
Anisa, would you like to take on that question?
Yeah, let me. I would first say, Mr. Javed Saab, so when you were in US, what visa you were in here?
Yeah, I was on J1 for postdoctorate.
You were on J1 here, and then you had for 2 years, you said, right?
Yeah. Almost 2 years.
I mean, as me and Mr. Wajid talked about, the opportunities for anyone, whether it's academia or industry. But the one thing I would say, if you want to be in the industry, to come to US, it's always difficult to get a visa for the jobs in industry if you're coming from Kashmir. I would say that you can look for a position in the academia. If you have any job, you can find out if you can look for a position somewhere in industry, because you have to, in academia, because you have to first get your visa, because then as in the beginning, I was talking about applying for the waiver and then getting H1 visas, and it's very hard to get into the industry. That's my personal experience. It may have changed, but when I was applying, it was very difficult to get in the industry right away coming from Kashmir. So I think I would say, look for a position in the academia, in the university somewhere in US, and then you can transition from there, because you have not applied for waiver. You have to stay. So your plan is to stay here to apply for a job in industry and then just stay in US forever, or what is your goal actually? What is your plan?
Yeah. I mean, the problem is if I want to go back to US, I have to take a big risk by leaving this job, what I am in right now. And like that's what sometimes I'm worried about, and I am kind of confused. Like,
No, you don't have to. I mean, you have to just decide on what you want to do. I mean, you have to take a decision. I mean, you're not going to leave the job. First, you have to look for the opportunity you're getting. You can start applying. You can start, as we were discussing about, there are opportunities in US where you can get a job in industry. You don't have to say like, I cannot get it. So you have to start, give yourself a chance, apply for a jobs, and in the industry, in the university level, and then you can try yourself. And if you really want to be in US, if you really wanted to continue your work or job, or you want to live in US for a longer time, then you can try to look for a job in industry after coming here, which would be easier for you to move from academia to industry.
okay,
Sorry,
thank
Hanief
you.
Sahab, I'm just gonna interrupt. Sorry, Dr. Javed Sahab, I'm gonna interrupt. Could we take this question offline just because there are more details involved? And again, with respect to time, I wanna give the young students who might be participating in this live session to have an opportunity to think about or talk about their own insights or feedback regarding the industrial sector that we
Yeah,
just
sure,
discussed.
sure. But just one thing I want to mention is that, like, I tried to reach out to a couple of people who are in academia in US, like, and they are on Facebook, like friend list. But unfortunately, like, none of them replied. That was the worrying part, which kind of hurted me, because like, if this is the platform to really help people, it's not like only students. Like, I'm a person who has more chances of getting into a job, for example, maybe in US, because I have some experience from US as well. So like, I want to give a message that if we reach to someone, if we text to any one of you, like, maybe, like, it doesn't take much time to just text back, or give your convenient time so we can kind of discuss offline. And maybe any one of you, if I can get any kind of help from any one of you, it would be really appreciated.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
the purpose of this. That is the purpose of. Yeah, we'll
Thank
talk
you,
about that.
Hanief
yeah,
Sahab, I'm sorry to
definitely.
cut you out here.
Let's connect online, Dr. Javed. Offline, sorry. Let's connect
Okay.
offline, and maybe we can talk more about it. And we're definitely here to help.
Yeah.
Thank you
Javed
so
Sahab,
much.
thank you so much for joining us, Dr. Javed. I just want to add up quickly, without wasting much of the time. We have a 24/7 dedicated communications wing that caters to either responses on Facebook, Twitter, or emails. I think we will really be happy to help you if we can. You can just send us an email, or you can just text us, or Facebook, and our communications team will connect you to people.
Okay, thank you so
Great,
much. Thank you
great.
so much.
Thank you, Javed Sahab. So we have lined up next one participant. Dr. Said is with us. Dr. Said is Director JK Scientist. Dr. Said, can you please unmute yourself and ask your question directly?
Am I audible? Thank you.
Yes.
Assalamu alaikum. Thank you, Hanief Sahab, and for this wonderful session. I'm a faculty here in US at University of New Mexico, Albuquerque. And I was also in the same situation where most of the postdocs or PhDs here are. I was applying for jobs, although I was at a good place, good lab, very supportive PI or mentor. And obviously, we know that in the US or everywhere these days, it's very difficult to get a faculty position. And I applied in many places. I didn't get any interviews. Then I had a discussion with my mentor. What is the second option? He was saying industry. But I guess maybe you have discussed this already in this session. I joined it a little bit late. As an international student or scientist, it was hard to even get, you can apply, but I think I talked to many people. They say you need to have H visa, and I was same on J visa. That was the first challenge. The second challenge was that I have devoted my life 10 plus years to fruit fly genetics, which is basic fundamental process of discovering things, but I don't see it related to translational side of industry. And now I'm a faculty, and I am very well connected with scientists. Like even in Kashmir, we try to through JK Scientists send 20, 30 students to internships. And now in my lab, I have already started sending people to good places, undergrads or PhD students I can. But somebody who is interested in industry, I don't know how to send them to internships, or if they are international students, like I have 2 Kashmiri PhDs, if some of them is interested, is there a program where I can send them to industry so that they can start getting connected if they're interested in industry? And also, I don't know much, I have no much experience with how industry operates or what they want. For example, if somebody is interested in industry, do I push them towards or guide them towards a project which relates more to industry than to academia? What is your suggestion for me as a faculty to mentor people who are interested in industry rather than academia? Thank you.
I can take on that one, and Assalamu alaikum, Saeed Saab. First of all, I feel really disheartened that you said that fruit fly. You didn't see a fruit fly translational science coming to the industry. I have personally been working on the fruit flies in the background, and there are gene therapeutics that get developed on like rare neurological diseases that have come from the fruit flies, and we look for like gene therapeutics that get marketed and manufactured and commercialized for various patients. These are drug substances which go for patient uses, and we're talking about rare diseases like Danon's disease, or even Fragile X, even other neurological conditions. Or even if I take Hanief Saab into account, he works with Ocugen, and they work with like age-related macular degenerations. And I guess the model has been the same. So first of all, I feel disheartened. But again, answering your second question, that you said that you have a couple of PhD students working in your lab who would want to do internships. Yes, definitely that is a challenge. If you are not a citizen, and I'm going to keep US in consideration, for example, if you're not a citizen, if you're not an LPR, then it's going to be very hard to get an internship or even an apprenticeship in an industry. It's very hard to crack such programs. You have to be involved. I do see students coming from school, but usually the first eligibility is your passport. The first eligibility is your visa. But what they can look into, and they should not be shying away from this, they should apply. They should apply. I have seen a couple of examples myself in my industry field that there have been students on different visas who got sponsorships just because they did not shy away from applying. So the first eligibility is that you need to apply. You need to get out of that comfort zone and start applying. You get rejections, no problem, still keep trying. And get into the network. Again, like we mentioned, we briefly touched based on this before. I don't know if you heard that or not, but connect and broaden your network. Reach out to people, reach out to the industry folks, reach out to industry mentors, and directly ask them what you're looking for. And I'm sure there will be a way, because I have personally experienced there are students, especially Asian students, who have been able to get internships despite having visa issues. So is it doable? Yes. I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, the other part was when I said we do basic fundamental research, so there are very, like you said, translational approaches of studying or using fruit fly as well. But in our lab, we study fundamental biology of how our brain develops, for example. If some student is interested in industry, so that was my question is, I think you partly answered it, is should I push them or should I try to give them experiments which relate more to genomics rather than genetics, for example, or more to biochemistry rather than genetics or simple cell biology?
So I guess the first question that you have to ask yourself and your student especially is that why do you want them to go to the industry? Definitely there is like some bit of research, there is an R&D designed for like the discovery aspect of it. If your student is working on translational, even the foundational biology of something, he's adding a certain piece to a puzzle, right? But what we do in the industry, we take the entire puzzle, we bring it to the market, we bring it to the patient. So that's the goal. If your student is really interested in learning the end product, then definitely push them, because that's where they should be. That's where they belong. We work on the end product. We work on like commercializations. If you're doing some research which is going to benefit and serve the humanity in some sense, We are going to develop that. We are going to discover that. We are going to manufacture that for somebody who's really in need. If your student is really interested in seeing the end product, then definitely push them. If not, then they should adhere to the R&D side of it. I hope that answers the question.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Wajid Saab. Thank you so much, Dr. Said. We have next lineup with Haider Mir. Can you please unmute yourself, Haider? Haider Saab.
Assalamualaikum.
Yeah, please go ahead.
Am I audible?
Yes.
Yeah.
So this is Haider Mir. I am currently working as a scientist in a hospital setting in Srinagar. So we work on surveillance of influenza and other respiratory viruses. And I have recently completed my PhD in biotechnology. So what I wanted to ask Dr. Hanief is that what are the opportunities for industrial postdocs? Like we have the postdocs in academia, they are advertised on Twitter or on other websites, and we approach the mentors and we write to them. What is the procedure for applying for industrial postdoc, and are these posts advertised? And you previously mentioned that we can come as an academia postdoc and then we can make a transition, but both are in different visa categories. So what are the goods and the bads about it, and how easy is the transition from a postdoc academia to a job in industry?
Yeah, I think for the industry, yeah, there are the postdoc positions definitely, as you was in the industry there are, but I would suggest to not to get into the industry as a postdoc. I would say, because there are a lot of disadvantages getting into the postdoc. I mean, I would say if you are applying for a position, if you really want to make a career in industry, you should look for a position in industry as a scientist. Because you're a PhD, so you definitely look for a position as a scientist, because the opportunities, if you come as a postdoc, they really sometimes don't have the positions available for you in working in a postdoc. When you come as a scientist, there are more opportunities for you to grow and in the same company, or if you will look for some other position outside. But if you come as a postdoc, sometimes they have a limited options. There are not many postdocs in industry. And I think the better idea would be, the better suggestion would be to apply for a position in academia. And also the reason for that is the visa. And I mean, it's very easy to get a visa in academia to come to US, to use that visa, whether it's a J1 or H1, whatever visa you get it, you come to US, and then you can transition from there. You can come, and it's not difficult to get into the industry, but your visa is more important here. And regarding the postdoc, there are many examples. People didn't get the job. They applied in the industry as a postdoc, and then they lost their job. I mean, not job exactly, because it's a postdoc. They had a limited term of 2 years, for example. After 2 years, they are not being, given the opportunity to apply for a scientist position. Then they have to look for something else. So that means if you're working as a postdoc in industry for 2 years, you lose that time. So rather than doing that, you better come and work as a postdoc or whatever options you get, whatever job you get in academia, and then you can move from there. So I hope I answered that question.
Sorry, I also want to add something on that similar note. I just, sorry, I forgot your name. I missed it. If you're a postdoc, then definitely there is an area in the industry where postdocs specifically works, and they usually end up working in a discovery domain of an industry, which relies heavily in the R&D side of it. So that is something you should look into. And if not, then you should ask yourself first, if you don't enjoy working in the discovery side of things, then in an industry, where do you see yourself fit? So that's the first question you have to ask yourself. Yes, I do have a postdoc. I do have a couple of publications. I have certain amount of experience, but you have to ask yourself, where do you see yourself fit? If you want to go into the discovery, if you want to come to the PD, if you want to go into AD, upstream, wherever. So that should be your first question to yourself.
Thank you.
Yeah, and also, about the visa, here the visa is very important to get a job in the industry. That is what I would say. I mean, if you don't want to, if you think like, yes, you want to get in the industry ultimately, yes, you can get in industry, and then you can look for what you really want, as Mr. Wajid was saying, in R&D and PD or whatever. But for you to pursue your career, to come to US, I would recommend to look for a position in academia in the beginning, which is
And
kind of
definitely,
challenging because it will take you more time to really get into the industry, but that is the easy path. That's what I say.
and please do not shy away from applying. That's what I tell everybody back home. Do not shy away from applying. Don't think about visa, because it's again a misnomer and a misunderstanding among people that there are no like you don't get sponsorships by an industry. That's certainly not true in today's world. You do get sponsored by industry if your portfolio is really strong and you have a selling point. Again, you have to think about certain factors, that what do you as a person bring to the industry? How are you helping them? If you're helping them, they will definitely help you back to work abroad. So do not shy away from applying.
Thank you. Thank you. That's the first encouraging word I've heard from a person who works in the industry.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Haider Saab, and others. We have a few more questions on Facebook, but I think most of them have been answered in your general discussion. So before we wind up, I would like Dr. Zahida Kamri is with us. Dr. Zahida Kamri, please, any concluding remarks, Dr. Zahida?
Thank you so much for this wonderful session and for taking time from your weekend. This was just it's a $1 billion industry, and we wanted to try this session. It's just the touch of an iceberg, the tip of an iceberg that we are trying to give different perspective to the non-academic careers for our students back home. We know that they mostly students there, they don't want to come out from their comfort zone. They just want to be in Kashmir, and that's in this session we saw that Dr. Shahjee was more inclined towards getting them to US. That we all want that they should excel, because US has a greater opportunity and greater outreach basically for the qualities of a person. So here people can have their own niche without having other things to cater about. But keeping in mind our experiences in Kashmir with JK scientists, we have seen that people don't want to come out of Kashmir. So the next thing what we wanted to focus that, okay, what about mainland India? Because we have seen that outsourcing of this pharma industry or industry as such, IT is India is the hub of that, and we wanted to have a share from that for our students back home. So we want them to have a little bit of information about how does it work, the pharma company, because I have seen that there are tons of jobs available. And we have seen we have so much of an unemployment going on in Kashmir. So this was just and beginning of this series, and we will be having many more series about non-academic jobs in India. So thank you so much, Dr. Shahjee and Wajid, for being with us on this morning. And we hope that students back home will take advantage of this session. Thank you, JKS team.
Thank you, Zahida ji.
Thank you.
Thank you so much,
Thank
Dr.
you,
Zahida,
everyone.
for being with us. So I'm sorry we'll have to end up this session. It has been a long time we have been into this session. So I would specifically like to thank Dr. Hanief for being with us today, and Dr. Wajid Saab for being with us today. You will be a doctor soon, I hope so. It's early morning for both.
I'm in the pipeline.
And Wajid Saab as well. We thank you for being with us today. I would also like to thank my teammates, Dr. Zahida Kamri, Dr. Zahoor, Dr. Asif, Dr. Saima, and Umayya Muzaffar, who are part of our outreach team, for doing all the wonderful things we have been doing since long period of time now. And as Dr. Zahida ended up her talk with, that this session is particularly for non-academic purposes, and it's third of its kind session, and we'll be having more sessions in future, and hopefully we'll have Dr. Hanief and Wajid Saab with us again. Thank you once again, Dr. Hanief, and thank you once again, Wajid Saab. With this,
Thanks
we
for having us.
Thank you, Khalid Saab. Thank you, everyone, for giving the
Thank you,
opportunity
everybody.
to talk today. Thank you.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
Thank you, guys.
Allah Hafiz.
Thank you.